Picture this. You're trapped in a meeting. Some guy is droning on, presenting literally slide 42 of the world's longest presentation, and your brain, it has completely left the building. You're sitting there mentally debating what to make for dinner, or worse, helplessly replaying that incredibly awkward thing you said to a barista 3 years ago. Suddenly, you snap back to reality and this massive wave of guilt hits you. You're thinking, oh man, I should be focusing, I'm totally slacking off. But what if I told you that guilt is completely backwards? Because neuroscience has figured out something absolutely wild. In that exact moment of zoning out, you are not being lazy at all.
Seriously, think about it for a second. Where were you when you had your last genuinely brilliant idea? I guarantee you weren't hunched over your desk staring intensely at a computer screen. No way. You were probably in the shower, walking the dog, or just staring blankly out a window at absolutely nothing. This is Mind Spectrum, and today's explainer is going to completely change how you view doing absolutely nothing.
All right, let's dive right in. To understand what your brain is actually doing when you zone out, think of it kind of like your smartphone. When you're actively focused on a hard task, it's like having a really heavy, power-hungry app open on your screen, just draining the battery. But when you turn the screen off and shove the phone in your pocket, the phone doesn't just die, right? It silently starts running all those critical background updates. And guess what? That is exactly what your brain is doing when you stop actively trying to work.
Section 1. The aha moment and behind the mechanism.
So how does this background processing actually work physically inside your head? Let's move from that smartphone analogy into the hard science of what happens in your neural pathways when we finally just let our minds wander. Back in 2001, researchers running brain scans stumbled onto something completely unexpected. They noticed that when people were given a specific task to do, a certain group of brain regions actually quieted down. But the exact second that task ended, doom! Those same regions lit up on the scanner like absolute fireworks. They discovered a hidden system that was literally always running in the background, just waiting for the work to stop. They named it the default mode network, and as it turns out, it only fires up when you stop focusing on the outside world.
Now here's the kicker. This network is the complete opposite of idle. When the default mode network takes over, your brain goes into absolute overdrive. It frantically starts making connections between random, seemingly unrelated ideas. It digs into your deep memories, tries to understand other people's motives, and even simulates future scenarios that haven't even happened yet. It is literally doing the heavy lifting required to build a creative breakthrough.
And this brilliantly illustrates why forced downtime is so wildly powerful. A 2018 study proved this with hard data. Researchers made one group of people do a mind-numbingly boring task for 15 minutes, while another group stayed highly engaged with something actually interesting. Then, they asked both groups to come up with creative uses for everyday objects. The results? The people who were subjected to forced boredom completely crushed the engaged group in creative problem-solving. Boredom isn't a glitch in our operating system. It's the upgrade.
Section 2. The War on Boredom and Killing Creativity.
Which brings us to a slightly painful reality check. Because, let's be honest, we live in a modern, hyper-connected world that has essentially declared out-out war on this natural creative process. We are willingly destroying our own best ideas every single day, mostly by accident. Look at this number, 7. Statistically, the average American checks their phone once every 7 minutes during waking hours. Think about the gravity of that. That means your brain almost never gets a stretch of quiet downtime long enough to actually fire up the default mode network. We're constantly bombarding our brains with input, aggressively refusing to let the machine run its background updates.
It's honestly ridiculous when you think about it. The second we face 2 minutes of micro boredom, waiting for a latte, riding an elevator, or, let's face it, sitting on the toilet, we instantly whip out our screens in a cold panic. We are utterly terrified of having nothing to do. But by avoiding that tiny, uncomfortable window of boredom, you are actively replacing deep, high-level processing with shallow scrolling. By killing the boredom, we murder the ideas that actually matter.
And this brings us to the cruelest irony of all, especially for the high achievers out there. This is the productivity trap. You think that grinding harder and maintaining sheer intense focus is the ultimate way to win. And yes, focused attention gets immediate tasks checked off a list, but sheer effort doesn't tell you what to build next, or what direction your life should actually take. That requires default mode network space. If you fill up your entire mental bandwidth with sheer effort, you leave absolutely zero room for the breakthrough.
Section 3. The incubation effect and letting go to win.
Let's just slow down for a second and look at what happens when we finally surrender and let go. We have this deeply ingrained cultural belief that stepping away from a difficult problem means you're giving up, or worse, failing. But the science challenges that core belief completely. Let's walk through the actual timeline of an idea. Psychologists have documented this exact incubation effect since the 1920s. You spend an hour hitting an absolute mental wall. Then you spend 1 minute throwing your hands up in defeat and walking away. But 15 minutes later, while you're doing something completely mindless, your default mode network secretly takes the wheel. And then bam, in 1 single second, the aha moment arrives out of thin air. Letting go of a problem isn't giving up. It is shifting into a highly active, totally different cognitive state.
Section 4. How to do nothing. A science-backed guide.
All right, let's ramp the energy back up. Knowing the science is fantastic, but how do we actually weaponize this? Here is the science-backed guide broken down into punchy hacks you can practically apply to a ridiculously busy life. Here are your 3 steps to unlock this network. Number 1. Protect 15 minutes of zero-input boredom every single day like it's your most important meeting. Take a walk without your headphones, just you and the ambient noise. Number 2. When you hit a mental wall, do not force it. Step away and do some mindless chores. Go do the dishes and let the background app run. And number 3, sleep on big decisions. It's not just a cliche, it's a neurological strategy. Your brain literally processes your biggest problems during light sleep.
I really want you to walk away from this explainer with this one core realization. The next time you catch your mind wandering in a meeting, I want you to completely reframe that guilt. The person staring blankly out the window isn't lazy. They are running the most sophisticated algorithm in the known universe. Your brain is doing its absolute highest level work. It's just working on a problem that is vastly bigger than that spreadsheet on your desk.
So here is my final soul-provoking question for you today. Where do you get your absolute best ideas? Is it the shower? The morning commute? Staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m.? Tell us in the comments below. If this explainer made you rethink how you work and completely flipped your perspective on being bored, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and keep feeding that curiosity. I'll see you in the next explainer.